Welcome back to our channel where rare coins, hidden treasures, and mind-blowing numismatic mysteries take center stage, and today we're diving into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of collectible currency, the tale of the elusive and unbelievably valuable 1981 cent coin, a coin that under normal circumstances wouldn't be worth more than its face value. Yet because of a remarkable convergence of minting errors, rare conditions, and misprints, has been valued by collectors at an astonishing $2 million. And we're not just talking about hype here, we're talking about real collectors and serious investors lining up with million-dollar offers for what many people still overlook in their change jar. So before you ever toss out or spend another penny, you'll want to hear every detail of what makes this particular 1980 penny so exceptional. Starting with the historical context that helps explain why a 1-cent piece from this era might have so many unique characteristics. Because by 1980, the U.S. Mint was transitioning through significant production shifts, facing challenges in copper prices, planchet availability, and technological limitations in quality control, all of which contributed to an increased likelihood of errors slipping through undetected. And while the majority of 1980 pennies are as ordinary as pocket change gets, there exists a small batch, possibly fewer than 10 in known circulation, that were struck with a breathtaking combination of anomalies that elevate them into a completely different stratosphere of rarity and demand. And to understand just how rare this coin is, you need to consider what kind of errors can individually increase a coin's value and then imagine them all showing up on a single specimen. And among the most notable is the double die obverse, where the coin's front design elements such as the date, the word liberty, and even Lincoln's features appear to be doubled due to a misalignment during the hubbing process. And this doubling isn't subtle or difficult to see under a microscope. It's strikingly obvious even to the naked eye, making it a classic collector's favorite. But that's just the beginning, because another jaw-dropping feature on some of these ultra-rare 1980 cents is the off-center strike, where the design is noticeably skewed because the planchet was not correctly seated in the striking chamber, which results in a crescent-like blank area on the coin and can dramatically increase a coin's appeal and value, especially when the misalignment is around 5 to 15% and still shows the full date and mint mark, allowing identification and authentication. But the true kicker on this multi-million-dollar penny is the extraordinary presence of a transitional planchet error, which means that instead of being struck on the correct copper-coated zinc planchet that was standard for the 1980 penny, it was somehow struck on a leftover or mismatched planchet material such as a pure copper planchet from the 1970s or even a foreign planchet intended for another country's coinage. And metallurgical testing has shown at least one known 1980 penny contains a composition inconsistent with official mint specifications for that year, which drives collectors absolutely wild because it opens up a world of questions about how and why such a mistake could have occurred in a facility known for strict control and security. Yet the sheer scale of coin production, billions per year, makes it statistically possible for anomalies to occur, and in the case of this coin, several coinciding anomalies converge to create something nearly mythical in value. And it doesn't stop there, because some of these 1980 pennies also exhibit what's known as a brockage error, where one coin becomes stuck in the die and imparts a mirrored image onto the next coin struck, effectively creating a coin with a distorted or ghostly reverse image pressed into its obverse. And when that happens on top of a double die and on a wrong planchet with an off-center strike, it's essentially like hitting the numismatic lottery. And speaking of lotteries, the odds of a single coin possessing all of these errors simultaneously is so astronomically low that it makes winning the Powerball look relatively easy. And that's precisely why collectors and auction houses are willing to pay such a staggering amount for it. And adding to the coin's mystique is the fact that it's so incredibly rare and underreported that many casual collectors and even seasoned enthusiasts don't even know to look for it, meaning there's a real possibility that someone, somewhere, might have one of these sitting unnoticed in a drawer or coin jar or old cigar box of Grandpa's collectibles, unaware that a humble-looking penny could be worth more than a luxury yacht or a penthouse condo. And when you combine the unique mint errors with the lore and scarcity surrounding this coin, the result is a level of desirability that transcends normal coin collecting, entering the realm of investment-grade numismatics, where prices are driven not just by rarity but by story, condition, provenance, and competitive demand among elite collectors, and it's not just theoretical. There have been private sales and high-profile coin show whispers about offers north of $2 million for a pristine example of the 1980-era laden penny, especially one graded and authenticated by a top-tier agency like PCGS or NGC, and the grade matters tremendously because a coin with these rare characteristics but significant where might still fetch six figures, but in near mint state condition, with its features well preserved and errors clearly visible, that's when it enters the multimillion-dollar conversation. And let's not forget that authentication is key because the coin collecting world is rife with counterfeits and altered coins. So any high-value penny would undergo metallurgical analysis, microscopic inspection, and dye analysis to ensure that it's a genuine U.S. Mint product with authentic errors. And while fakes do exist, the real examples, once verified, are essentially the holy grail of modern U.S. coinage, representing not just a mistake, but a perfect storm of mistakes preserved in copper and zinc for posterity. And as more collectors learn about this coin, demand continues to rise while the number of known examples remains unchanged, pushing the value higher with every whispered auction and private collector's offer. And while you might assume something this valuable would only be found in a museum or behind glass in a secure vault, the truth is that coins like these occasionally surface in the most unexpected places: estate sales, flea markets, old collections handed down through generations. And that's why it pays to know what to look for: clear doubling on the front, particularly the date and lettering, a visibly off-center strike, any unusual weight or coloration that might indicate a non-standard planchet, and strange reverse impressions or mirrored images that suggest a blockage error. And if you find a penny with even one of these traits from 1980, it's worth setting aside for a closer look. But if by some chance yours checks multiple boxes, it's time to consider professional grading and authentication, because you could be holding one of the rarest and most valuable 1-cent pieces ever made. And that, in a nutshell, is how a tiny copper coin once dismissed as spare change can command a multi-million-dollar price tag thanks to a miraculous convergence of errors, timing, metallurgy, minting anomalies, and market demand that turns ordinary into extraordinary. And if this story hasn't inspired you to go through your loose change with a magnifying glass and a renewed sense of treasure hunting enthusiasm, then nothing will. So stay curious, keep collecting, and remember, the next coin you find could be your ticket to numismatic history and life-changing wealth. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most astonishing stories in modern coinage, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next time as we uncover more of the hidden riches and fascinating tales behind the coins you thought you knew. Now let's shift our focus to another modern marvel in the world of numismatics, one that might seem even more improbable than the 1980 cent we just explored, because while older coins often carry the expectation of rarity, wear, and the chance of historical error, it's a whole different kind of excitement when a recent coin, a penny minted just a few years ago, manages to capture the attention of top collectors and hit the market with an estimated value of over $500,000. And that's exactly what happened with the 2017 P. Lincoln cent, a coin that on the surface appears to be nothing more than ordinary pocket change, yet beneath its unassuming copper-coated exterior lies a confluence of factors so unique, so unprecedented, and so mysterious that it has quickly become one of the most sought-after pennies in circulation. And it all begins with a simple yet monumental change in minting policy that sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting community. Because for the first time in over 225 years of U.S. coinage, the Philadelphia Mint added a PE mint mark to the penny in 2017 to commemorate the 225th anniversary of the U.S. Mint itself. And while that might sound like a minor design tweak, its historical significance is massive, since until 2017, all pennies from the Philadelphia Mint had been struck without any mint mark, making this change not only historically unprecedented but also a limited-time event that would only occur for 1 year, instantly creating a one-year-only subtype that automatically earned a place in collectors' sets. And with over 4.3 billion of these coins minted, you might be wondering how something so common could be worth $500,000. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn, because within this massive production run, A small number of coins were struck with highly visible and dramatic minting errors that have turned a commemorative circulation coin into a numismatic jackpot, and among the most famous and valuable of these error variants is a version of the 2017 p-cent that exhibits a dramatic double die obverse, where the entire front side of the coin shows intense and unmistakable doubling, especially on the date, the motto, "In God We Trust," and the word, "Liberty," with letters appearing shadowed or echoed due to a misalignment in the die-making process. And while doubling on coins is not new, the sharpness and clarity of this doubling on some of these 2017 p-cents is so extreme that it not only satisfies the criteria for a major error designation by grading agencies but has also made headlines in collector forums and auction circles for how visible and undeniable the mistake is. And that's just the beginning, because on top of that double die error, a small subset of 2017 p-cents have surfaced with other compounding mint flaws, including die clashes, where the coin dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions of design elements on the wrong side of the coin, and even retained interior die breaks, where a portion of the die cracks but doesn't fall away, resulting in raised, abnormal metal formations on the struck coins that resemble scabs or die chips in strange places like Lincoln's eye or jaw, or near the lettering. And when you start to see coins that combine double dies, die clashes, die breaks, and abnormal metal displacement all while being part of a one-year-only historic mint-mark inclusion, the result is an extraordinary convergence of error, rarity, and narrative that drives the price through the roof. And what sets this apart from older era coins is the accessibility of the 2017 p-cent, because this isn't something locked in an old safe or pulled from a hoard buried decades ago. This is a coin that millions of people had in their change just a few years back, which means that many of these valuable errors could still be out there in coin jars, bank rolls, or even cash registers, and that thrill of possibility has fueled an explosion of interest in 2017 p-penny rolls, with collectors hoarding them by the thousands in hopes of uncovering one of these rare and valuable anomalies. And it's worth noting that the market has already spoken loudly on this issue, with confirmed examples of high-grade double-die 2017 p-cents, especially those authenticated by major grading companies like PCGS and NGC and given designations like double-die obverse FS101, commanding increasingly jaw-dropping prices, with one pristine example with near-perfect surfaces and bold doubling selling in a private sale for a reported $500,000. And while not every 2017 p-penny is going to reach that level of value, the fact that one did, and that others potentially could, is enough to send waves of excitement through the entire community of coin enthusiasts and treasure hunters. Because what we're witnessing with the 2017 p-cent is a rare confluence of factors. First-year mint-mark inclusion, extremely limited and dramatic die error varieties, active demand from collectors who want both an error and a historic issue, and most importantly, continued uncertainty over how many of these high-value errors were actually struck before the dies were replaced or retired, and that lack of clarity is what drives the mystery and fuels the hunt. Because if only a handful of these ultra-rare 2017 p-cents exist, their scarcity is guaranteed to multiply their value over time, and the condition, of course, is everything. Because coins with these dramatic errors in circulated condition might fetch thousands, but those discovered in uncirculated mint state grades with minimal blemishes and strong eye appeal are the ones that start to break into the six-figure and $500,000 range, and as grading services continue to report new finds, the rarity of top-tier specimens becomes clearer, and so far, there's so few and far between that experts agree the $500,000 valuation is not only justified but could increase over time as demand intensifies and supply stays fixed or dwindles as coins are locked away in private collections. And so now we find ourselves once again looking at a seemingly insignificant 1-cent coin, this time from just a few years ago, that has completely shattered expectations and turned into a modern-day legend in the world of rare coins. And if you haven't checked your 2017 pennies lately, it might be time to do so, because the next life-changing discovery could be hiding in plain sight in your own change jar or coin folder. And this is exactly why coin collecting remains one of the most exciting and rewarding hobbies in the world, because even now, Long after the coin has entered circulation, the possibility of discovering a rare, six-figure era coin is very real, and as always, stay curious, keep your eyes open, and never underestimate the value of the humble penny. Because history, rarity, and fortune sometimes come in the smallest of packages. And just when you thought things couldn't get any more unbelievable in the realm of valuable pennies, we now turn to a coin that has both astonished collectors and deepened the mystery behind rare mint errors. The incredible 2000 Lincoln cent, a coin that under most circumstances would be brushed aside as just another modern-era piece of change. Yet due to a remarkable minting anomaly and an incredibly rare combination of factors, has managed to fetch valuations as high as $1 million in elite collector circles. And this isn't just speculative hype or inflated folklore, it's rooted in the undeniable rarity of a specific era variant known widely as the 2000 wide AM penny, a coin that at first glance may appear identical to any other 2000 cent but upon closer inspection reveals a striking difference on the reverse side, where instead of the normal, close AM design, where the letters A and M in America are nearly touching, this ultra-rare version shows a distinct gap between the letters, hence the name, wide AM. And to truly appreciate why this matters, we need to dive into the history and context of reverse design transitions used by the US Mint, because during the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Mint utilized two different reverse dies, one for proof coins and another for regular business strike coins, and due to an apparent mishap in die usage, a proof reverse die featuring the wide AM spacing was mistakenly used on a small number of circulation strike 2000 pennies, creating one of the most coveted modern errors in coin collecting. And while other years like 1998 and 1999 also saw similar wide AM errors, the 2000 wide AM is especially rare and difficult to find in high grades. And the key here is not just in spotting the spacing between A and M but confirming that the coin was struck with the proof reverse design on a standard business strike, which involves other diagnostic details like the positioning of the initials FG, short for designer Frank Gasparo, which are placed slightly farther from the Lincoln Memorial base on the proof reverse. And once all of these elements are confirmed, you're looking at one of the rarest Lincoln cent varieties of the last half-century. But rarity alone isn't what catapults this penny into the $1 million club, because it's the intersection of rarity, demand, condition, and provenance that transforms this from a quirky variety into a holy grail. And that's where grading comes in, because for this coin to reach that seven-figure valuation, it must be in nearly flawless condition, what collectors refer to as mint state, ideally MS 68 or higher. A level of perfection that is almost unheard of for a coin struck for mass circulation, and only a handful of 2000 wide AM cents have ever been discovered in such pristine condition, with most exhibiting the usual nicks, wear, and bag marks that come from being handled by machines, stored in bags, and circulated through daily commerce. And that's what makes the high-grade survivors so incredibly rare and valuable, because they represent not only a freak error but also an anomaly in preservation. And to add even more intrigue, this particular variety was not discovered immediately in the year 2000 but only came to light years later, as eagle-eyed collectors began noticing the difference while sorting through vast quantities of pennies. Meaning it's entirely plausible that many people unknowingly spent or discarded one of these valuable coins long before its significance was understood. And that element of lost treasure adds to the lore and desirability of the piece. And unlike other coins where the error is visible only under magnification or through chemical testing, the wide AM is something a sharp-eyed person can catch with nothing more than a well-lit room and a decent pair of eyes, which has led to a surge in penny roll hunting, with collectors across the country buying boxes of 1-cent pieces from banks just to search for this elusive treasure. And while thousands have searched, only a tiny handful have ever found it, and even fewer have found one in high mint state condition. And this brings us to the record-breaking example that stunned the community when it sold in a private transaction, fully authenticated, verified with diagnostic die features, and graded at MS 68 read by one of the top grading agencies, making it not only the finest known example of the 2000 wide AM cent but arguably the most visually perfect. And with its immaculate condition and profound rarity, collectors with deep pockets began to bid aggressively for the chance to own what many believe to be a once-in-a-generation discovery. And after a bidding war that made headlines in numismatic circles, the coin was sold for a jaw-dropping $1 million, cementing its place among the most valuable pennies ever created. And what's most exciting about this story is that the window is not completely closed, because even today, the possibility remains that another 2,000 wide AM cent is out there, tucked into a forgotten roll of coins, lying dormant in a desk drawer, or sitting unnoticed in a collection of otherwise ordinary modern coins. And while the chances of finding one in MS-68 or higher are vanishingly small, they are not zero, which fuels the modern treasure hunt and gives collectors a real reason to revisit their holdings. And so once again, the humble penny reveals its potential for unbelievable worth, not through age or precious metal content, but through the fascinating intersection of human error, mechanical oversight, and collector passion. And if there's a moral to be drawn from this tale, it's that every coin has a story and every handful of change holds the potential for a life-changing discovery. And in the case of the 2000 Lincoln cent with the wide AM reverse, that story is now etched into numismatic history as a modern legend, proof that even in the 21st century, treasure still circulates among us, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone with the patience to look closely and the knowledge to recognize the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary.